You know what I mean? I'm ready to get it going. Melanated family. How's everybody doing, man? This is your brother Harrison, Melanated Convo, back for another episode. Got my sister in here with me again. Like I said, once a week, we gonna come together and do this thing for y'all. And the shows that I do about news stories and different things of that nature, I'm gonna make sure it'll be on the show with this sister so I can have someone to go back and forth with. But the sister Sonia Williams Lewis, who is an author, Monsters and Aliens, available right now on Amazon. Pick it up. The second version of that book will be coming out shortly. She is the creator of Ascribe Educational Consulting, where she goes into businesses and, you know what I mean, help them fix that racism thing. You know what I mean? So that's my sister. Sonia, how you doing? Oh, you're freezing. You're freezing. Her screen is freezing. Okay. So Sonia's screen is freezing. We're going to keep on going until her screen come back. Sonia, you're freezing. Okay, there you go. You back.
There we go. Okay. I'm like, what's going on here?
Yes. So how you doing, Sonia?
I am wonderful. It's always, like I say, every week, it's one of those things when you can have intelligent conversation, you can listen to different people's perspectives, and you can begin to just like analyze what's going on in the world and then making choices for yourself. And I think that we all should be in spaces where our voices are valued, our opinions are heard, and we feel like we're validated in moments.
Definitely. So again, I'm excited to have you on the show. Please hit the like button, the share button. If you are listening to the show on one of the digital platforms, please leave a review. That helps the algorithm of the show. If you're listening to it on the digital platform, the show will post the following day. So we do the show typically on Thursdays. That's where you'll get the video form of the show, but the digital version of the show, audio rather, will be available the next day, which is Friday, right?
Yeah.
And they'll be available on all the digital platforms. So today we're going to talk about family. We're looking at everything going on with the brother Kyrie Irving. There's a lot to unpack about his treatment, his words, the movie he shared. All of these things are very interesting. How black media personalities, sportscasters, how they reacted verbally to this brother's message, like him just standing his ground. So that's very interesting. We also going to talk about the brother Takeoff. I know that's a little bit older, but I did a quick show about my trip to Washington, D.C., and I spoke about the Takeoff thing briefly, but we're going to delve into that as well, just as far as the respect that we have for one another and what we do when we feel disrespected.
Yeah.
Because a lot of these situations, everybody is getting into the minutia of who did what, who shot John. I guess for entertainment purposes and information, sometimes that's cool. But in reality, if you from our neighborhood, you get it. You don't have to know the whole get down to understand how we react in certain situations. So that needs to be addressed. Also,
Right.
A close friend of mine is putting on a fashion show here in Sacramento. So I'm going to share some information with you about that here in a minute. But before I do that, I want to touch on again, and I want to talk to you about this, Sonia. Sonia, this past weekend, I went to a rally for reparations in Washington, D.C. This was put on by the brother Tariq Nasheed. There was James Smalls was there, Boyce Watkins, Kaba Kamane, and some other individuals that I'm not too familiar with, but very empowering event. Like I said on the last show I did, Sonia, being around like 1,000 black people who think like we do, it does something to you. You know what I mean? So it was
does, yes.
in the conversations and how everybody treated you, and it was all walks of life. So you seen very professional brothers. You can tell they come from a professional background. You seen street dudes. You seen everyday black people. But the looks I got from people, the feeling I got being in the environment, it's hard to even put it into words. You know what I mean? And doing what I do, and I do this anyway, but I'm gonna walk it how I talk it. Like that. This ain't for sport. Like I don't cut this mic off and then go back to
right.
in my real life. I need to figure it out. and you need to get around your people to figure these
Absolutely.
things out. So the rally for reparations in DC this past weekend was monumental. The speakers brought fire. It was very professional. There was no anything, like no fighting, no yelling, no screaming. We had black Hebrew Israelite
Yeah.
brothers who was in the back who was doing their thing, right? So this is the only type of adversity we're getting in reality. Even if you don't agree with the black Hebrew Israelites, they're on code to a degree as well. They're not there to harm. They give information. They
Right.
yell to give information, but it was all constructive, Sonia. My family
Yeah.
enjoyed it. I didn't see another time where I would go to Washington, D.C. So I took the opportunity to go to the monuments, to go to the White House. And as I go to New York and I go to a lot of places that I see on TV that show me things, TV and the camera lens does a great thing for regular buildings. Because I'm looking at the White House like shit. Don't nobody
Yeah.
live there. Don't nobody live there. This is like a zoo. There's no way there's a family in a living room right there. That's a goddamn museum. Maybe it's a house out back, and I've seen a little house
Right.
out back, but in but this is all good things because it gives you perspective. So I was able to go to Washington with the family, quick
Yeah.
vacation because we always so busy, but it was a beautiful thing. It was a beautiful thing. Now, what I want to talk about real quick, like I said, my people contacted me and they are having a fashion show here in Sacramento, and so this is for the local people who are in Sacramento County on the 19th, November 19th. Let me pull it up here. Pull it up for myself to read it. On November 19th, the nail spot, the Chick's Nail Spot, which is my family's business, somebody that I'm really close to, Keisha Janae. These are the two businesses that are sponsoring this fashion show. So the Nail Chick Spot and Keisha Janae are sponsoring a fashion show on November 19th. To get inside the fashion show, it's $20 at the door. So you can buy your tickets now for $20. At the door, it's $30. They have vendor booths, which is $35. This is a great thing. Black businesses doing their thing, and anybody who's interested in fashion, if you have a clothing line, thinking about getting a clothing line, this is great for you. To go and
Right.
network, to go and meet people. Maybe you like some of the designs. You want to buy something. Hey, Sonia, it sounds like there's some music playing in your background.
Do you? Okay. Let me. I'm gonna put myself on mute. I'm at a Starbucks today because I wanted to have the
Oh,
quietness of
yeah.
not being distracted by the family. But I'm gonna mute myself and then
Okay.
turn down when it's time. But I got my
Okay.
earplugs in.
Okay. So November 19th, fashion show. The fashion show will be held at 2251 Florin Road, uh, uh, number 21. So room 21. This is the place where they hold the African marketplace here in Sacramento, California, where I'm from. So I'm excited for these sisters to use opportunities to showcase their business. So if you're in Sacramento, November 19th, fashion show, 2251 Florin Road, number 20. That's the room that'll actually be in. The doors open at 6. The fashion show starts at 6:45. For more information, email fashionblack2022, or you can call or text 7076741379. Also, me and Sonia will have tickets to give away. So if you're in Sacramento and you would like to go to a fashion show, tickets, they're going quick. But if you want to go to the fashion show, send me a DM to my Instagram, which is Melanated Convo 100. Send me an email, melanatedconvopod@gmail.com. In a second, I'll have Sonia give her information too. So send us information if you would like to go to a fashion show in Sacramento. Potential designers, people just who love to dress and get a different perspective of why someone designed something, but really networking event, that you can meet people, you can get a leg up in whatever other industry you may be in. So November 19th, fashion show. And between now and the 19th, we're going to talk a lot about this as well. And we have free tickets. We have free tickets to this fashion show. Please hit us up at Melanated Convo 100 is the Instagram page. Melanated Convopod at Gmail is the Gmail account. So let us know, man. So let's get into it.
Yeah. And what's interesting is that I always say we are the culture. So
Mm-hmm.
anytime you see something that changes in fashion, in music, in the way we speak linguistically, we are the culture.
Mm-hmm.
It starts with Black folks. And so we really and truly have to support creative geniuses who are doing things in community to bring one community together, but
Mm-hmm.
two, to celebrate the different ways that we express ourselves. When we show up, we know you're going to get a new trend, you're going to get something different. Because we're not a monolithic people. We are very eclectic in the way that we show up and represent. So I say let's show up and show out Sacramento for a fashion show like this.
Mm-hmm. And similar to the rally for reparations, like I'm beginning to learn, Sonia, high frequency environments where the goal, the
Yes.
reason for coming together is something that's powerful. It's rare that negative things happen in these environments. So what I find is attending things like this, business owner or not, it could be inspirational. You know what I mean? So everybody make sure if you're into fashion, hit me up. We'll get you those tickets. So let's get into it, man. Today, me and my sister missed last week, so I got so much shit to talk about, man. Because in the news and just watching everything in Black culture, my brother Kyrie Irving has been getting drugged through the mud here the past few weeks. And this isn't surprising. For some people, it is. Like, oh, how can you do this to Kyrie? I'm like, well, Muhammad Ali was alive. I mean, you see what he did to him? You know what I mean? Jack Johnson. I mean, it goes that far back. But I'm astonished by the treatment we still get today in 2022. So Kyrie Irving, as everybody know, tweets out a documentary. No verbal support, like no words of encouragement based on what he's seen, liked or disliked. Just here's the link. Now sending out a link is saying, I think you should listen to, view said thing. That can't be a way of saying that. Is it saying he supports it? Who knows, right? But the brother got villainized for doing this. And I want to break it down just real quick, right? Of what we're looking at, because they say anti-Semitic, anti-Semitic, anti-Semitic. I don't preach hate on any group of people. I don't practice it. And most African people don't on the low. Like, we just want to chill in the sun and, you know what I mean? We created all this shit. Like, we ain't mad. But what I want to read to y'all real quick before we get into how I feel about Charles Barkley and Stephen A. Smith and the Black media heads that are put in front of us to discuss these things, before we get to some of their coon behavior, because I got to go in on them a little bit, I want to read to y'all real quick some of the things from this book. The documentary. This documentary is based on a book. This documentary is based on religion. Like, let's frame it correctly. It's based on religion. The Black Hebrew Israelites was formed by a couple of brothers who were former Christians. They got a message from God, told them Black people were the original Hebrews. This is their religious belief. But what I want to read to you, because this book and documentary was created by Ronald Dalton Jr., right? This is a Black brother. He had an interview a few days ago that I listened to a lot of what he had to say, right? No hate in his heart. This is just his religious belief. So I want to read to you guys a few of the things they're calling anti-Semitism, because sometimes we hear these terms and we're taken aback, like, wow, what did he do? What did he say? It sounds so inflammatory, right? Now, let's get into what the book and movie say about white Jewish people. So the film promotes beliefs commonly found among anti-Semitic and extremist factions. And just a real quick note, a lot of the articles I'm reading, and this is an article from the ADL, by the way, a lot of the articles I'm reading are kind of leaning into the anti-Semitism. It's almost like uh, a narrative someone's trying to create, but I don't know. You know what I mean? Now, including claims that modern Jews are imposters who stole the religious heritage of Black people and have engaged in a cover-up to prevent Black people from knowing their true identity. So what I just read to you is a religious belief. One religious group believes another religious group may have deceived, lied. That's what they're calling anti-Semitic. And we're talking about religion here. Like, Jews don't necessarily consider themselves a race. So to a degree, we're talking about religions here. Now, while most of the film deals with historical and genetic arguments about various racial and ethnic groups, it also includes extensive anti-Semitism, including in here. Again, they just said the word anti-Semitism. So you're anti-Jewish, you're anti this person. And then what they say is extensive anti-Semitism. Then it says, including claims of a global Jewish conspiracy to oppress and defraud Black people, allegations that Jews are in part responsible for the transatlantic slave trade, and the claim that Jews falsified the history of the Holocaust. Now, that part I don't necessarily agree with. The pain people have experienced based on what they went through, for someone to say that didn't happen, I'm not going to say I ride with that completely. But what I'm reading to you is one group of religious people saying, hey, I don't agree with what they said. I don't agree with what they said. I think they could be lying. This don't mean I hate you. Just mean I religiously feel something different. And when we're looking at religion, I mean, if this brother would have posted a Bible verse or the new version of the King James Bible, read this, would this country would have been up in arms the same way? We got to think about this kind of stuff. We're talking about religion here, right? So let me see. Something else I want to read. And it basically goes on to say that the film also amplifies long-standing anti-Semitic tropes about Jewish power, control, and greed, including false claims that Jews control the media and disputes the identity of modern Jews, right? So a lot of things I've read have basically concluded, Sonia, that Jewish people, it's a confusion sometimes. Like, they don't consider themselves a race. It's more of a religion. A lot of them identify as white. So if somebody says, hey, Jews are controlling the media, they're controlling institutions. Well, how about we just remove Jews for a minute and say white? Stop dancing. We're saying white people. And then we in this big group of white people who control shit, we got some Jewish people, some who identify as Jewish religiously. You know what I mean? But some points I want to make here. Well, Sonia, let me ask you real quick. When you seen all of this developing, like him being basically castrated for posting a link for a documentary about a perspective, like, what were some of the things you were thinking? Oh, hold on one second. There you go.
So when I first saw the information, can you hear me?
Yes.
When I first saw the information on Kyrie being banded and said that he would be suspended for some games and he was going to lose money, my first thought was, let me go and see the interview, right? So to me, it wasn't a matter or an issue of what he posted. It was his response to, or lack of engagement and unwillingness to be controlled by the powers that be. Mm-hmm. So they asked him a question, are you anti-Semitic? And he said, if I offended someone, that wasn't my intent. I posted it because I wanted more information. And I think that people should be free to explore the various things that are out there to come to their own conclusion. I don't think that made him anti-Semitic because he posted the video. Neither do I think that it's a huge leap to begin to say, oh, because you didn't answer the question the way that I wanted you to answer the question, Mr. Black Man. Mm-hmm. I don't think that makes him anti-Semitic either. And so when we think about, you already know, I like to go back to the historical perspective of things. And you have to know that in Northern Africa, in Israel, there was a Jewish fraction. It speaks of the Jews in the Bible, and they were in Africa. And so I don't think about the Hebrew Israelites when I think about Jews being the Black people being the original Jews. I think about what the Bible has taught. And so I get it. This is a very sensitive subject. Um, the Jewish folks have been one of the only communities who have been able to successfully get a government to pay for the wrongs that were and atrocities that were lodged against their people,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so I get it. This is very sensitive, and we don't want to be hateful towards anyone. What I don't like and I don't get, and I'm still having questions about, is the way that we treat Black men as Black people in general, but specifically in this instance, Black men who are within an organization like a sports team, like media, like entertainment, music. You think that you own them because you're bound by a contract. And I hate that notion, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because when we think about the combine for football, to me, it's reminiscent of a slave auction, right?
Very much so.
So when we think about breaking the buck, right? We can go back to slave time where if you weren't a good slave and um, if you didn't get controlled by the folks that were around you, you were in trouble. And
Yeah.
so that's what it's reminiscent to me. And that's what it made me feel like, oh, you trying to control this man like that? Y'all already went through the COVID thing with him. And granted, I don't agree with everything that Kyrie says or does. I think that his voice and his opinion needs to be heard and validated.
Yeah. And I stand with any unapologetic Black man because when I'm watching his interviews, all I'm seeing is someone standing on their truth. That's all he's doing is standing on on his truth in an unapologetic way. Like if you don't capitulate, they get upset. They begin asking questions damn near out of anger almost. They kept asking the same questions. They kept trying to harbor him. And the brother's like, no, I'm standing on what I believe. And anytime you don't back down, they're going to have a problem with you. And none of this should seem new to people. Like history just repeats itself. Like we was talking about before we got started. Jack Johnson, going as far back as Jack Johnson, any athlete who is unapologetic and stands up as a man and don't play the game the system wants them to play, you're gonna be a target. And Kyrie's, is going through that same thing right now. So he put out the tweet. We read the information about the book as far as what is considered anti-Semitic, and a lot of these are just religious beliefs. It's believing, okay, if we are going to believe the Bible, like you just said, then in the Bible, if it's mentioning Black Hebrews, we need to look at the religious text that everybody's practicing. Because this is something based on religion. Like I said, if you would have posted a Bible verse or if you would have posted something about the Bible, we wouldn't be getting this type of backlash. But some of that information can be considered questionable too. Now, one of the things I think we need to do to like help Kyrie, right? Because I was just talking to somebody a few minutes ago, actually, and like a level of protection. If something, a Black man being able to, Sonia, speak their mind, speak truth to power. And then let's say you do this in the company you work for, whatever white power structure you're involved in, they take that from you. We need to have a mechanism available to help these people. I don't know if it could be funds in the form of money, but we need to create some type of mechanism to help them because then they'll be more confident doing this. Don't you think?
I absolutely 100% agree. Like, okay, so here's the thing, if we're going to take it from an economic standpoint, right? California has now shifted up from the fifth largest economy in the world to now the fourth largest economy in the world. If we think about the dollars that Black folks collectively spend in the US, we spend $1.8 trillion. $1.8 trillion. And if you think about the economies comparatively of all the countries in the world, that would mean that the Black dollar is eight. number 8 in the entire world as far as economics is concerned.
Mm-hmm.
So there's power in the black dollar. And so I think that when you talk about what is that mechanism, we can totally one make our own NBA team and system, right? Let's make that happen. We can make our own NFL league. Everything where we are marginalized and told to kowtow and follow this rule and the contract trumps your humanity, we can create those things ourselves. We
Mm-hmm.
did that at the turn of the century when the slaves were freed by the Emancipation Proclamation, when black colleges and universities had to be established all over this country. We need to begin to do those things today. There's an erection right now, a rebirth, so to speak, of Black Wall Streets all over this country.
Mm-hmm.
We need to begin to explore these things. While we're talking about reparations, we also need to be talking about where is the power in our dollar. And that's where this can be impactful for a person like Kyrie, when he then is out there on that island all by himself and people are coming at him. Also, keeping in mind that there are individuals out there who look like us who are going to be used by this system because the
Mm-hmm.
money is more important than our humanity, right?
Yep.
They've
Yep.
gotten used to getting that check, and that check trumps how they're going to treat their fellow man. And that's going to be something that they're going to have to deal with on their day of reckoning. But what I'm saying is, in the meantime, let as many of us collectively get together and say that this is not okay. And
Mm-hmm.
it's not
Mm-hmm.
okay. I was listening to, and I know some folks gonna get, probably a little bit like, ooh, but I was listening to Farrakhan, who stood up for Kyrie, in an interview this morning.
Mm-hmm.
And basically, he was saying that this is about religious control. This is about what is cultural norms. And if we don't lean on religious control and cultural norms, then we have to admit that we're leaning on whiteness. And
Mm-hmm.
so I'm just not willing to stand on whiteness every day, 24 hours, 7 days a week. I'm just not willing to do that
Mm-hmm.
because there's value in what we bring to this country, to this globe. We have built this shit.
On everything. And a lot of our people, leading into the next thing I want to talk about, a lot of our people make it very difficult. Like all of once we got to America, right? Once we got to America, the separation between the house Negro, the field Negro, the manutorious manumission, where a slave who was willing to tell, was willing to do certain things, would get a butter biscuit and a seat at the table. That same type of mentality is being handed out now. And just like you said, even the buck breaking thing, breaking the buck in front of other people. See, that's the biggest thing. We want everybody to see. It's not just doing it. That's one thing, but we want everybody to see. And now we have Negroes on TV that I think are completely off code. So when I look at the Charles Barkleys and the Shaquille O'Neals, Stephen A. Smith, a lot of these guys, there's been a lot of even more that's been on TV speaking about this issue. I personally think there needs to be a complete code of conduct of how we decide to speak on our brothers. If I have a man's number, all of you guys are at a status where you can reach out to one another. If you have his number, call him, see what's going on. But calling him an idiot, saying he's stupid because of religious beliefs, that's what we're talking about. But some of these same people are Christians. You can't have it both ways. But when your money is coming from a white institution, I think sometimes you feel you have to double down on it, and that makes it worse. Charles Barkley, one of the interviews or one of the inside the NBA shows they were doing was before Kyrie got suspended, Sonia. And on this show, he basically said he should get suspended. He should get suspended. The white man who is like the narrator of the whole thing on their show was trying to stop Charles Barkley from talking, and he cut him off and kept going. He needs to be suspended. More needs to happen. So not only did they say, hey, maybe he was a little insensitive and keep on moving, they made it a point to double down on everything that's been saying about him on in the media. And to me, this is 2022 buck breaking, where we take big, massive men, Shaq is shit, 7'9". He on there talking about, I just want to love. I'm just
Right,
here to make
right,
people have fun. I'm just here to make people happy. Whoa, yeah.
right.
Like in a general sense, we should all be here to make people happy. But your people is struggling. your people
Absolutely.
specifically is struggling. So how you approach that matters. In a lot of the slave revolts we would have, a lot of these things were not successful, not because white society stopped it. It was because somebody black decided they wanted a seat at the table, decided they didn't have the heart to contribute, whatever the problem was. But we still see this today, and it's disappointing. You know what I mean?
It's so disappointing. Like, I cannot imagine going into spaces where, one, you have other folks who look like you and you don't trust them, right? So that's
Mhm.
an issue in and of itself, because we are always the ones that are being alienated from one another. So the second thing is that this division within our community is intentional. So, like, they identify from the get-go, like, you gonna be on our side, and I'm gonna give you this money if you come over here and be on our side, but I need you to act like this because you over here on this side. Because
Mhm.
if you don't act like this, you're gonna be back over there with the common folks,
With
right?
the kind of
And so
folks.
that's the second thing. But the third thing that is even more critical in this conversation is this conversation about freedom of religion. I was looking at a meme. So, yesterday, as we all know, not yesterday, 2 days ago, Tuesday, was Election Tuesday. And I'm just going to use the example of the state of Georgia. There's a race where you have a known liar, someone who has been accused of, and even receipts were found of him paying for abortions. That's Herschel Walker, running against a pastor, right, a reverend, and Christians in the state of Georgia decided to vote for Herschel Walker, the known liar, rather than someone who represents their Christian beliefs, right?
Mhm.
So that's the oxymoron. So, are we really and truly having a conversation where we're defending religion? Or are we having a conversation that defends race? And I believe it's the latter, because
Mhm.
there's no way on God's green earth that any Christian can use the same Bible that I've read all my life, because I'm a PK, I'm a preacher's kid, that same Bible, and then have these conversations about you shouldn't do this or you shouldn't do that. We can't have it one way. You can't have it both ways. Now,
Mhm.
we know that two things are true at the same time, but there are
Yeah.
certain things you can't have both ways. And so that's the conversation. Are we defending religion or are we defending race? And whiteness is pervasive. Whiteness is the foundation of what racism is, all of its tentacles. And
Mhm.
that's what we have to begin to break down.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's a way to actually do this. So yes, the systematic things that have been set up make it difficult even to this day. But some sort of code of conduct being in our community, like you don't have to um, talk about it and preach it the way some people do, but behind the scenes, there needs to be a level of unification because Shaq and all of them was saying, Sonia, that even Shannon Sharp, hey, when any athlete does something that I don't like, it's my job to speak on it, and I can't knock that. This is what you signed up for. This is your job, but your duty, and all black folks, hear me when I say this, before the job that hired you, before the career that you started, your duty is to your people first. That should be first. So if my duty is to my people first, I can't speak this ill of Kyrie. Like I have to navigate this in a particular way, which there's a way to do it. Kenny Smith, who was sitting right in the middle of all of them, he, I would say, was on code out of all of them. He spoke from both perspectives because they're really shitting on Kyrie. And Kenny Smith says, well, hey, he said he was sorry. He apologized. I'm going to believe him. Let's move forward. But he broke down a few other things. There's a way to do this, calling him an idiot. And Shaq basically said he's not conscious and he don't know what he's talking about. I'm like, you can't do that. He's reading things that's making him think this is what all of us should be doing. But being on TV, that representation of denouncing him, that hurts us. That hurts us. You don't see white people on TV just attacking one another. It doesn't happen. They don't feel they have to come out and speak about other white. For some reason, we feel we got to come out and speak. Be quiet. I know silence can say something, but at times, don't participate. No comment. There has to be a different way to approach it because I personally think I know a lot of people on the grassroots who are looking and doing their best to get us where we need to be as a people. I think
Yeah,
it's going to take all of us. So the people with celebrity status, the people who are athletes, entertainers, whatever your sector is, there has to be a level of commonality that we don't allow the media in the companies we work for to control us in the public. Like you can allow things to happen, but privately, call Kyrie, see what he's doing,
absolutely.
tell him what you're gonna talk about. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. It goes back, it reminds me of, okay, so you got PWIs, which is primarily white institutions out there.
Hmm.
And then you have historically black institutions where we were relegated to because we weren't invited to and accepted into white spaces. So it reminds me of those PWI spaces. And I'm thinking specifically about the young lady. Her name's Kayla, and I can't remember her last name, but she's at the University of Kentucky. You probably have seen the incident at a dorm where a young white girl came in drunk, and she was calling Kayla, who was like the dorm monitor at that time. She was calling her the N word over and over again. They have it on video. The girl used the N word over 200 times. So it reminds me of some of these PWIs who have specifically put in place policy to have black spaces because we know that you need folks who look like you, walk like you, talk like you to just get through a process where you are going to be alienated. I was at an opening last night, a premiere of a documentary one of my girlfriends here in town did at UC Davis. And when I was listening to her speak, she said, when I got to UC Davis um, thank you, back in the early 2000s, we had a black dorm because they knew that we would get lost in the sauce of what whiteness is if we didn't have that support. So what I'm asserting is that every institution, including these institutions, like I'm as a nonprofit organization here in Sacramento, I'm working with the Kings, right? And so I know that the Kings do a really, really good job of trying to make sure that people, when they come into their organization and space, that there's this equity piece and that we want to make sure that you're okay. So these are the conversations we need to be having with all organizations. Like, how are you marginalizing people? How are you gaslighting people? How are you traumatizing them because you're saying that they're wrong or an idiot because they don't conform to the norm that you've subscribed to, when that norm intentionally is designed not to allow for us to succeed. And I
Hmm.
don't see this as any different situation, the situation that Kyrie is in. I don't see it any different than you
Hmm.
going to work to your job and organization and being the one that is like put out there as, oh, you don't want to trust that person because they talk about this in their private time, right? Or that teacher's not trusted because when you go to their class, they treat these kids one way and these kids another way. I don't
Hmm.
see it as any different. We have to protect ourselves in these situations, and it requires a network of us to do that collectively together.
Well put, Sonia. Well put. And that just real quick before I go on to my next point, I had a therapist on the show a few days ago. Was it yesterday? A few days ago, and me and her talked about the fact that a black therapist, a black doctor, i.e., a black space, can change the whole experience. It can turn the experience. She would, and she said, like the black person would come in, and it would be an immediate, just a sigh of relief. Like people don't understand what we have to go through as far as the professional individuals in this country we need to go to for all types of services. Most of the time, they don't look like us. Like I searched for a black doctor. When I say I searched high and low, I had to Google it, look it up, call. Oh, he ain't there no more. I'm like, this is weird. And then I end up getting a black doctor on accident. Like I said, fuck it, I gotta get a checkup. This what come on, whatever he is, let me check you out. And he walked in, what's up, brother? I was like, man,
Right? Where you
I'll do
been?
it
Where you
first
been all
time.
my life?
You know what I mean?
That's
So
it's very true. And
mhm,
and even when we find ourselves in space, you and I both know, and we've come to the conclusion, one, that all kinfolk ain't skin folk, but seeing that commonality does It gives us that opportunity to breathe and then determine whether or not that person is good for us. Because we don't all come walk the same walk. Again, I say that we are not a monolithic. But I can remember when my babies were born and I was looking for a pediatrician. I can remember when I was looking for a new physician, when I was looking for one for my husband. I was like, I had to say and call up to Kaiser and be like, look, I've been a customer since the day I was born. So my mama had Kaiser. I then had Kaiser when I was an employee, when I wasn't married. My husband, we've had Kaiser for over 50 years, right? And so you're telling me that I can't find a black doctor? There's something wrong with that. And then I started noticing more and more black doctors, especially in specialty fields, popping up. And so, yes, we have to unfortunately do our due diligence, but it is a comfort place. And I think that everyone deserves to have that sense of comfort because, unfortunately and fortunately, when other folks come to this country, they look for their own, and you wouldn't have a Chinatown in every major city across this nation. You wouldn't have a Japantown. You wouldn't have the Jewish enclaves that are what they are if this wasn't important to people to feel comfortable. We've had an influx of Afghani immigrants that have come to this area, and they are congregating in the same area. I can't be mad at their community needing support. Language, culture, religion, food, all of those things are important and vital to anyone's culture. So we have to be able to do that for ourselves. The
Mhm.
unfortunate part for Black folks is our our culture was destroyed when we came to this country in the enslavement system. So we don't know exactly where we're from. We don't know the nation and the tribe and the language. So we're kind of speculating. And we've been conditioned and indoctrined to believe this thing about whiteness that it sometimes hinders us from even lifting up who we are as a people. But
Mhm.
all people's cultures need to be celebrated. And when we celebrate each other's culture, especially our own, it allows us to see the value in others.
Definitely, definitely, and that's damn, that's well put, Sonia. Because I don't think it's a coincidence that there's no small uh black town, like a little part of a city where it's all black businesses and they're thriving and working with each other. Some would just call that the ghetto or the hood, but these are manufactured enclaves that we didn't construct, so we don't have that. You see what I'm saying? And that's in the familial thing. And I always go back to the start of us. Like when I look at a Mexican immigrant or just a Mexican person and I see him speak Spanish, I see him have a Mexican last name. I go in their house and they're eating traditional Mexican food. They have a cousin, grandma. They can trace their lineage right back to Mexico. Now, there could have been strife and problems and difficulties to get here. Everybody has issues. But man, when you got the comfort of knowing, yeah, this is some racist shit I'm a part of and I hate it, but I can go home. While you're bullshitting, I can get out of here and go home. And my name ain't like y'all's. Like I'm distinct based on my culture. We should be able to have that too. Now, one more thing on Kyrie before we move on to the brother Takeoff in the unfortunate event that ended his life. When we talk about buck breaking, I want everybody to hear what the Brooklyn Nets are requiring Kyrie to do to return to playing a game. Okay. For him to return to playing a game, this is what he has to do. So, and keep in mind, when eh, when NBA players, NFL players that are white, and let's say they say nigga, let's say they do something racially insensitive, right? They say sorry and they move on. They don't, nobody badgers them about what they did. It's a completely different energy. So when we talk about buck breaking, I hate to say it, man, this shit is still happening to me. So what a Kyrie must do to dribble a damn basketball again, apologize, condemn the movie, apologize and condemn the movie, $500,000 donation to anti-hate causes, sensitivity training, anti-Semitic training, meet with ADL Jewish leaders, meet with Joe Tashi, I'm not sure who that gentleman is, to demonstrate understanding. Damn, so, okay, Sonia, they bend over, nigga. to get back on the team, I need you to bend over and mean it, because during the interviews, they kept saying, I just need you to say, are you anti-Semitic, yes or no? Who are you talking to? I'm a grown man, bro. I'm going to answer this shit. I'm going to answer it how I want to answer it.
Absolutely. You know what I mean? And take it a step further, the definition that I looked up, because I wanted to make sure that people understand the gravity of what buck breaking is. So it is when a slave, right? I'm sorry, let me scroll back down just a little bit. The history of sexual exploitation of Black people by the dominant society, particularly the sexual exploitation of Black men. There's actually, so you mentioned earlier when you were in DC, Tariq Nasheed did a movie called Buck Breaking that is out and available, so that you understand the gravity that this was a matter of contributing to or building up the slave population, right? So we're gonna break you, and then we're gonna turn you around and make you be violent to the Black women who are on these slave plantations, get them pregnant so we can continue this slave, population. But take that a step further when we talk about the hazing that goes on in fraternities and sororities around this country. Take that a step further when you go and want to aspire to be on a professional football team, and you go through a combine, right? Take that a step further when you are signing contracts. I think of the most egregious contract that any entertainer has ever signed, and just because of the era that we grew up in, I think of TLC. And I think of how the hell did y'all let all that money slip through your fingers, right? And then they turned around, the companies turned around and made them blame another Black woman for that. And I don't think that that's fair, because the system says that the company got the bulk share of the money. The manager, Pebbles, she didn't get the bulk share. She got what was in the contract. Yep. And then TLC got pennies, right? And so when we talk about things like buck breaking, we have to be very clear that this is about breaking not just the spirit of a person, right? How am I going to show up? Am I going to have my head bent down? Am I going to not speak and articulate what my thoughts are? That's what it does to you. And so it changes the psyche of a person when you are telling them to stand in a truth that isn't their truth.
Man, come on now, Sonia. And the last thing I'll say about this is, we tell our children, you can be whatever you want to be. Like any profession in America that America has to offer, people see Barack and say, look, you could be a president. Here's what you need to say to your kids. And this should be in your teachings to them as well. You can be whatever you want to be. Then what? Then what? Because this is how I feel, family. If you Black and you create a successful life for yourself that isolates you from all of us, yes, you just benefited your personal lineage and your family, and I salute you for that. But alienating us, not coming back and contributing to what we need done in some shape or fashion, to me, this negates everything. See, fuck that to me. This negates everything. So if don't teach your kids, just go out and be successful. Yes, you can start a business. This is America. You can go online and start a business and work hard and accumulate money. This is very, very possible for anybody. We have roadblocks, yes, but this can happen. But then what? Who you gonna give it back to? Who you gonna be around after you get the money? What are you gonna do with the money? Are you gonna be able to be controlled because you love the money so much? Ooh, and I got this nice neighborhood and all these nice white folks. I'm not losing this. When I look at Stephen A., this is what I'm thinking. He don't want to be back out here. Like my brother Corey Holcomb say, he don't want to be back out here with us.
Yeah.
He like, nah, my hairline way back here. Yeah. Get him, y'all.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
You see, Sonia? So we as far as giving a solution, we need to try to build our own. We need to see the value in Blackness. And that comes with a little
It's
sacrifice.
it's so rich. It's so like it's so beautiful. It's so strong. It's so warm. It's so welcoming. It's so forgiving. It's so to me just all of the things that I think about. It's like grandma's hands. They so soft. Like and she gonna hug you and she gonna make sure that you good. It's even when we get the scraps and we make something out of nothing.
All day
That's
long.
all day long.
That's what
And
we
so
do.
to separate yourself from that kind of thing, it's almost like cutting your foot off, cutting your tongue out your mouth,
Mhm.
right? Cutting your heart out your chest. I'm thinking about the things that help you show up in space. Your heart is your lifeline, right? Your tongue allows for you to speak.
Mhm.
A foot allows for you to get around, right?
Mhm.
So you're cutting something that's crucial to who you are off when you separate yourself from the people who are your foundation.
Mhm.
It's scary. It's really scary. I could not remember I told you, when I left Burbank, it was like, psh, I'm out of here. And I don't know that I want to come back because the statistic is ugly, right?
Mhm.
Not that we were ugly, the statistic and what the resources were given to us were ugly. And I had to have an awakening of how do I get back into. I just simply walked my neighborhood. And my neighborhood was like, we glad you went away. You got that knowledge and that education. Now you come back and you help make sure that this community is good. And that's what I vow to this day. To this
Mhm.
day, I'm going to make sure that Meadowview is good, period. When I think about my hometown of Oakland, I'm gonna make sure that Bushrod is good, that Ghost Town is good. I'm gonna make sure that those areas where the resources ain't there, that they get them.
And that's a job for all of us. So black
All
folks
of
need to
us.
realize we need to remove the fear. Remove the fear and replace that with like love and pride in your people. And look, we all gonna leave this earth someday. But it can be of various different reasons. I just told myself, okay, if I love my grandkids, I got 5 grandkids. I'm 42. I got 6 grandkids actually. Like I got my son's got babies, right? And I'm looking at these little kids' face like, shit. Yes, I need to set up an infrastructure financially and legacy wise that helps them. But my mind, we black. I gotta help change this world before I'm out of here. You see? And that has to be everybody's mentality and choose your route. You can be quiet. See that athletes don't realize. Say no comment. Because Charles said, I'm mad that we even gonna talk about this idiot. Don't say no.
No, no.
I'm gonna
I
just
have no
Kyrie.
comment. Absolutely.
He apologized. Everybody, let's move on. After
Yeah.
the show, I'm gonna call him, see what he really meant, see what he need. That's my brother. I just work with y'all.
Right.
See, that's my
Absolutely.
brother. You know what I mean? So shout
Absolutely.
out to the brother Kyrie Irving. I hope he doesn't get Colin Kaepernick, Muhammad Ali. You know what I mean? So that's why we got to talk about supporting him, like saying,
Absolutely.
hey, that's wrong, but we got to be in a position. Because I was just talking to
The
somebody like this.
challenge.
Like
Yep.
if because he makes a lot of money. If he is in a position where he puts himself on the line and he loses money, Black society should be able to say, "Hey, we're gonna give you $1."
Pump
My
the
girl used to tell
brakes.
me this was brilliant. She said, "Look, if we all
Absolutely.
give $1, he'll get his $40 million back." I said,
Absolutely. Right.
God damn, you're right."
Easily.
Easily. See, so it got to be a support system because Muhammad Ali
Mhm.
was the greatest. He was the best. He was the top of his game, and he loved us a lot. So he took a sacrifice, and that
Yep.
messed his life up. Just to
Right.
be completely honest. See,
And I
so
just let me just also say, so there's a difference between compromise and sacrifice. Compromise is when you allow in some, so that foot being cut off, and you can't operate at your full capacity. That's a compromise. A sacrifice says, I'm willing to show up and I'm giving this. Right, my cup is full, and I'm gonna give you a portion of my cup. Oh, I got a little extras and leftover. That's a sacrifice. When I had 6 babies and I sacrificed my high school cheerleading figure, that was a sacrifice, right? But the compromise of going to the hospital and not having doctors care for me because I was a Black woman, that's called a compromise. So we
mhm.
need to understand the difference between the two. We got
Yes,
about 10 minutes left, but let's get to this this
yes,
takeoff,
yes,
because
yes. Because that
takeoff
was
we
we was just
ooh,
going. So yeah,
yeah,
so tell me, Sonia, like when you see, because I like to get your direct opinion on these kind of things,
yeah.
and the battery in my the battery in my camera is gonna low too. So we're gonna rush through this thing.
Okay, okay.
When you see rapper killed, gun violence, what goes through your mind before knowing the circumstances of how it happened? What are you thinking when you see rapper killed in its gun violence?
Yeah. It's a scary thing when we tell our kids, go out there and represent the culture and be proud of where you're from and, talk about the good, bad, and ugly and the indifferent, right? So that's one part of it. The other part of it is when I hear rapper is, what are you doing for your people when you do make it? And then thirdly, like if we stay connected to our community and our folks, ain't no way that somebody can get in my circle to get me, right? Because I don't care who you are as a celebrity. And unfortunately, the rapper gets the bad name. But when I hear rapper and I hear gun violence, it's because we live in a country where poverty is pimped. And at the end of the day, somebody else taking out someone like a Takeoff makes room for somebody else to make it. Like, let's be
Mm,
clear about this. This is economics. Like
mm,
when you somebody else disappears. So like let's say, I don't want none of the what's the little rap girl that got beef with everybody right now. The Beehive. No, not the Beehive, that's Beyonce. What's the rapper that got beef
uh,
with everybody?
female rapper?
Female rapper.
I'm not sure. That's interesting. No, I'm not sure.
No?
Yeah, she's one of the younger rappers. I don't follow a
She
lot of
is,
the young.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
yeah,
But she's popular. And she
yeah.
got beef with everybody. When she's gone, the younger rappers are gonna come in and take up her space. Like
Mm,
we don't see the Salt and Peppers and the MC Lights out there, the Queen Latifahs, right? We don't hear their voices. They've made a way, they made their money, and they're doing other things. We have to come to a place where either we're giving back and helping somebody else get to the next level, or we leave ourselves out there in the open exposure too, because
hmm
poverty gets pimped. So when I hear rapper and gun violence, I think about the struggle of poverty and where people come from and why. The other thing we got to think about, someone said it when um, um, what's our guy down in LA when he was killed at his store
Nipsey.
down in when
Nip.
Nipsey was killed. It was like, why would you come back to the hood? And I'm asking the question, why would I not? Why would I not
Yep.
have enough people that I trust around me to make sure that I'm good,
Yep.
that nobody can penetrate my
Yep.
circle of security, right?
Hmm, hmm.
When I was in BLM Sacramento and I was on these streets, it was hyper security culture. So like it was like if somebody wanted to get to one of us lead organizers, they had to go through a few people to get to us. Like
Yeah.
media couldn't come up to me and get an interview. They had to go through some channels to get to me. And
Hmm.
so I feel for his family because at the end of the day, somebody should have told him, where's your people at? Where are your people? That
Hmm.
should not have happened. But
Yeah.
again, it goes back to that thing that always rings in my mind, poverty. We do things, unfortunately, because of a lack of opportunity and a lack of access to resources.
Man, that's exactly what I was going to hit on, Sonia, because the optics of young black men, because this is just the basis of what of what we're talking about. Young black men in a circle playing dice. You
Playing
ask
dice.
yourself, because look, there's some rich people in this circle, people who rappers, whatever. Why are these young men playing dice? Just or doing this particular activity like this? Well, just because you got money, don't mean you feel comfortable in white society because of how we've been treated. Yeah, I got money, but this is a familial environment. In the community
Yes.
I grew up in, a dice
Yes.
game is a family environment,
That's
and it can be a violent environment because of egos and
hmm
finances and poverty and
hmm
all these things we talk about. This is one of the hood cultural phenomenons that
yes.
happens across the country, and arguments happen. A lot of things
Yes.
happen based on dice games. So yeah, a part of me says if you're worth a certain amount of money, or if you went to a certain place in society, you should try to avoid things. But where
Yeah.
you gonna go?
Right.
Where you
Where you
where
gonna
you
go
gonna
where you
go
can be
if
authentically you and be comfortable?
where you gonna run to
There's
be
someone
comfortable?
in the chat that said that some of these rappers are They street dudes. And so when do you get to a point where you make it to a certain level where you say, that's not safe for me anymore, and still respect the street? Because we do know that there are some artists who have done that, right? We know that there are some who, when they come back home, folks is coming out the street and they like, we with you, we support you. When do you get to that level of
Now look,
success?
and this is the thing: black men need to be given the opportunity to grow. They need to be given the opportunity to develop into men. If we look at
Yes.
Snoop Dogg, if we look at T.I., I can name about 6 or 7 rappers who were in their 40s/50s, and
Yes.
in their 20s, you was probably thinking, I don't know how much longer he got. He getting
Yes.
shot at, he's shooting people, he damn near crazy. Nori,
Yes.
Nori, people look at Drink Champs and see him smiling.
Yes.
In his
Back in the
20s,
day,
this guy would he was all over the news for shit, right?
all
But he got an
over.
opportunity to grow. He got an opportunity
Yeah.
to live, get out of his community. Now they all smiling.
Yeah.
All of them is smiling. The guys
Yeah.
that was getting murder cases and going to jail, they thinking, no, I'm
I'm
years
good.
away from that environment and I'm good now. I'm just a regular person now. And all these young dudes need to be given the opportunity to grow. But something else I
Yeah.
want to touch on, Sonia, the how we handle disrespect. How we handle disrespect in the hood, this is going to be one of the determining factors to our growth as a people, because it's
Yes.
how we handle disrespect and how do you view that black man? Because we're talking about conversational aggression. Somebody saying something you don't like. Somebody
Yeah.
swing on you, punch you,
Yeah.
whatever. When what we're grabbing the gun. We're having the gun. We're going to an environment where I need to have a gun. If my partner say, "Hey, let's go to a bowling alley," I'm like, "Sure." It's gonna be drinks and music. Let's do it. But they say, "Bring your gun." I'm gonna say, "Whoa,
Why? Yeah.
why do I need my weapon?" Because a gun is like it's like a extra. It brings on an extra level of strength. This people
Yeah.
don't understand. It's powerful.
Mhm.
So give the wrong person a gun or a person who is quick to pop off, they gonna turn to that. But Sonia, how do you think, before we go, how do you think we get to a point where black men in every sector of society is saying, yeah, I have something in me where I can go there. If
Yeah.
something happens to my family, something happens around me. But if it's a black man, I'm gonna think twice. I'm gonna reconsider it. I'm gonna really think hard about how I aggress him. You know what I
Respond.
mean?
Yeah. So first, I want to say that respect starts with self. And if we are taught and conditioned that we have no value, it's kind of hard to respect us. And I gotta say that again. So like we're conditioned to not have high expectations as a collective, right? And so if black folks believe this false, very false narrative, you and I, we don't have that as an issue, right? We are very confident. We know who we are. We are unapologetic about the importance and brilliance and beauty of blackness. But there are so many others who have not had that awakening because the people around them also have not had that awakening. And I say to folks that you don't know what you know until you know it.
Okay, Sonia,
And
real quick,
so
do me a favor. I'm sorry, everybody. I need to get my charger. I want to continue this conversation real quick. Sonia, just keep talking. I'll be right back. Okay.
okay, okay. Yes. So we don't know what we know until we find out. It might be an epiphany. It might be someone schooled us on something. It might be a history lesson was presented to us, or we witnessed something play out and then we begin to question, oh my God, did that just happen to me? And so, in those moments, we have opportunities. We have opportunities to change our ways, the way we think, the way we behave. But we have to challenge ourselves. And I think about meeting um, individuals who have not left their neighborhood. Like, bless you for loving your hood, right? And not wanting to go nowhere else and just loving the hell out of your hood. But if you don't know what's going on in other hoods, you just can't. You just can't be exposed to the greatness that the world has to offer for us. I can't hear you.
Okay. And I think,
Okay, there you go.
and man, I think perspective is one of the keys to understanding. So people don't realize sometimes, just like traveling and doing this kind of stuff. Yeah. Um, seeing different places, food, visiting family, to travel, all these things are great, being on a plane, all that. But really, it's perspective, guys. It's going somewhere, breathing in the air, seeing what's different, because the hood mentality is unfortunately very limiting at the same time. You know what I mean? Because you are stuck in, so when people present you with something that you think is out of your realm, you shit on it. You become negative. This is why we have people who become successful and they come back, and the people who are still there say they can't stand it. He looked different, he smelled different, he looked taller, his skin clear and shit. He fucking talking with an accent. Like, where the hell you been? And like, I was just 2 states over, man. I was just 400, 500 miles away. You know what I mean? So again, man, we gonna bring you this show every week. It's important that we discuss the stuff that go on with our people. RIP to the brother Takeoff. I don't want to see any young brothers in hip hop die no more. But it's not a hip hop issue. This is the things we go through in our community and how we're handling the backlash of the institutions that have fucked us over, basically. And it's on autopilot now. Yeah, crack cocaine and all that got your daddy, but now it's on autopilot because he wasn't there for
Right.
you. You had to be raised with your mom. Now you see what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
it's on
Now, and
autopilot
also take it. So we already talked about, poverty being a huge piece of that, right?
now.
But let's also take into those other things into consideration. We have to take into the consideration of when we see someone else succeed, mentally, we might be envious or jealous. We also have to take into account mental health in respects to alcohol and drug usage. We have to
Mm,
take, so I hear young people say all the time, why am I, there, I have no value. I don't think that I'm going to live past a certain age. So why am I going to respect the next man's life? Because my life is not, they don't see themselves getting old. They don't see themselves maturing beyond certain things. So we have to, this is our job as a collective community, right? It's the Sonias and the Harrisons of the world to get out there and say, hey baby, let me peep you up on game.
hmm
Like, because one day you're gonna be my age, and some of these things are not gonna be important to you anymore.
hmm And that's important. So, black family, if you got kids, if you're a part of black culture, we love music and we love
Right.
hip hop. Create the separations and make sure your young person understand what they're listening to, and you create the structure, because you create the structure and the foundation, because white kids aren't shooting each other. They buy
Right.
60, 70% of the music, and they're not shooting each other. They're not creating gangs. And no, this is a community thing. So we gonna have this
Yeah.
conversation, but people outside of our community, how dare you talk
How
about
dare
white
you?
rappers killing it? Mind your goddamn business, unless you're gonna get that money back. You know what I mean?
Right.
You see what I'm saying? So
Let's be
RIP
clear.
RIP to that brother. But black
Yeah.
men, the black on black crime trope was created for um for different purposes, and that kind of that's used to demonize us. But we have to
Yes.
look at each other and say, this system has created something that now we're festering and dying at 28. This brother's 28 years old. He just now becoming a man. His
Right.
frontal lobe is just now fully developing.
Right.
So we got to give people time. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, Sonia, do me a favor and give everybody your Instagram, how everybody can get
Absolutely.
that book.
Yeah. I appreciate it. Again, these are the important conversations. I say that they're critical, and we have to be courageous in standing in them and just being willing to open and be open to listening. I can be found, you can find the book and you can find me at Ascribe. That's ASCRIBE success.com. That's where you can find out about my work and services. That's where you can find the book. Some of my I'm on a book tour date. All that kind of stuff can be found there. My Instagram and Facebook page is Ascribe Success, and so we try to keep everything, the continuity of things, make it easy for people. But it's one of those things when I see a kid in community and they say, oh, I saw you speak at this event, right? And you said this thing. I just want you to know that it was important to me.
Mhm.
And so I just want to say that if you lend your voice, like, our voices are so important and we get silenced so often. There's a lack of power when we know that we can't speak our truth. And so I just encourage people, be your best advocate for yourself. And the one way that you can do that is opening up your mouth and saying something to somebody younger than you so that they don't bump their head and get the bruises and have the experiences that we had.
Yep. Gotta teach what's been taught, as they say.
Right.
Gotta teach it. So this is your brother Harrison, man. This is the Melanated Convo podcast. Great having my sister on. This boosts up my spirit, man. Just having these conversations, and then, like you mentioned, people come to me later and we talk about it. But this is what it's about. This is what I dedicated my life to. Follow me at Melanated Convo 100. That's the Instagram page. Go to the YouTube page, which is the Melanated Convo. Latest interview. What I said, like I said, I had a black therapist on the show. Really good content.
Yes.
Subscribe. Like the show. This is your brother Harrison, my sister Sonia. We out.